Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Stock Talk episode here on the KE Report. I'm your host, Corey Fleck, and I am joined once again by a good friend, Quinton Hennigh, geologist, private investor, and geologic advisor to Crescat Capital. In this Stock Talk episode, we're going to be doing something a little different as we're going to continue to go through a couple stocks that you have all sent us, but I'm going to go through the company's presentation. We're going to do it in a much quicker manner than we usually do going through presentations, but I think this should give a visual in terms of what to look at on presentations and also anything that could stand out to Quinton. We're going to be skipping a lot of slides here, really just trying to focus on some of the key slides. And again, thank you all for sending me all the companies. Quinton and I have a list of still, I think, about 20 companies to go through. We're going through 3 companies today, those being Kuya Silver, Core Assets, and Outcrop Silver. Quinton, let's start off with Kuya Silver here. I'm going to shut off my video camera just so we can focus simply on Kuya. Kuya is traded on the CSE under the symbol KUYA and on the OTCQB under the symbol KUYAF. Company has 2 projects. One in Peru, the Bethania project. That's moving into small-scale mining through toll milling. And more of an exploration play in Ontario, the Silver Kings project. Let's get right into it here, Quinton. This shows where the projects are. Give us a bit of background. Do you know much about these projects within the Kuya portfolio?
I do, Corey. This is a company that I was part of very, very early on. Actually, we used Miramont, which was a shell at the point, I think in 2020, that Kuya needed a vehicle to go public. So we worked with Kuya and David Stein to pull everything together. I was a director of the company too for a while. I am still a shareholder. Crescat's still a large shareholder. We've been with this story for quite a long time. And I've followed, Bethania was really the first project. You know, Silver Kings came about through some acquisition later, we'll say. But Bethania was the kind of the flagship project. It is a vein deposit in Peru. It's up in the highlands, and it's a production story. I mean, it is really geared towards small scale silver production. It's a very high grade deposit. And the company is, finally finding their legs in terms of the financing they need to move Bethania forward. So I think that's a big plus. I think they're hitting it just right with the market where it's turning here recently. I think we're going to see silver do very, very well. I don't hear anybody doubting that at this point. So I think they might be hitting it just right. But the Silver Kings project is really all about exploration upside. It is up in the Kerr area, which is not too far from the Cobalt camp or the town of Cobalt, Ontario, and that's a very famous historic silver producing region. I really like that Kerr area because there's a lot. There was only, I think, 80 million ounces of silver produced in that part of the camp, compared to Cobalt Sea, where I think there was like 300 million ounces or so. But this Campbell Crawford area in particular, the high grades that they've hit there, I think last year they had it's either the first or second highest, gram meter silver intercept industry wide. It speaks a lot about the quality of that project.
So, Quinton, this is an interesting slide that shows a dual track value creation. Development on the bottom at Bethania, exploration at Bethania and Silver Kings. When it comes to early stage mining, especially small scale mining and toll milling, what are some of the key metrics you would look for early on in the whole mining operation when it gets started? Is it simply all about cash flow and profitability?
It really is. This mine does have a history of good cash flow back when it was originally operating under the private owners in Peru. This is going back 5, 6, 7 years ago. So it does have that working for it. It's already demonstrated it can be quite a profitable mine. It's very high grade, and it's really got to carry itself. In other words, the mine has got to generate enough cash flow that the company can then sustain itself and do exploration in the area and make the story grow. I do think the company has aspiration to build their own plant at some point. albeit a modest scale. I think 350 tons per day is the scale that they're looking at, and that's because there's kind of certain permit thresholds in Peru. That one's the easier one to obtain. But this toll milling process can get them there. Okay, they can toll mill for a while. Um, Toll milling is basically where you work out an arrangement with an existing mill where you provide ore. Either you sell the ore directly or you work with the milling company to take a share of the profits or some structure like that. And I think they're going to make some pretty good money out of toll milling. This is how it was operated previously. Again, it made money back in those days. It will make very good money as silver prices rise here. But then that money now has to go towards constructing their own plant, because I do see the company on track to really expand this operation. They don't have just this view that it's going to stay a small scale mine forever. They do have really good exploration potential around Bethania, and I think they can grow this thing into a modest or mid-tier scale silver producer over time.
Yeah, all about cash flow early on. I know they don't want to go back to market. And quite frankly, if they can generate some internal cash flow through toll milling, that goes a long way for the company. We'll skip some of these slides in terms of silver. I think a lot of our audience is up to date on silver. I did want to go to slide 9 here, the resource overview. Have you looked into this resource at all? How would you even go about analyzing a resource like this that is just an indicated and inferred, but they are moving into mining it?
Like the vein widths are pretty stout here, 2-3 meters generally. Um, it's really about grade, and this is a nice high grade deposit. Okay, you can see both the silver grades there as well as the silver equivalent grades. Most of the equivalents made up by lead and zinc in particular, but there is a bit of copper and gold. Look, this is a high grade system. I mean, you look at those numbers, you compare them to a lot of the big silver stories out there, say Vizsla and Dolly Varden and such. This is right in line with some of those very high grade silver, development and or even going into production stories. So I
Much
think
smaller, though, right?
it is much smaller. But here's the thing, guys. If you look at the profile over here on the right of these veins, they have really only explored these things down maybe 150 meters or so, but you can see they're wide open. Okay, see the bright pinks and oranges there. Those are going to continue to depth. It would not be, out of the realm of possibility to quickly double or triple the profile of those veins and really grow the ounces here. You're starting with, say, on the order of 14, 15 million ounce silver equivalent right now, but you could easily see this grow into the 40, 50 million ounce silver equivalent range very quickly through a bit of exploration. Okay. The production is going to be at basically the levels you're seeing in those profiles. You can see little white areas, which are historic stopes, so you can you can imagine that is easily accessible, can go in production, but just let your mind wander for a bit and think about what's happening at depth. I think you're going to see these things take off. I think there's a lot more to be found here.
Okay, thanks for that overview there, Quinton. And this is the toll milling agreement. I actually just hosted a webinar with Kuya Silver not that long ago where we really focused on this move into development, this low risk exploration. This is another slide that caught my attention where this is the resource. And as you said, they could go deeper, but they also have this other exploration or these targets over here to the west. Do you know anything about these targets?
Yeah, I think that's to the east. I think we're looking
East.
north.
Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, no worries. So again, right straight below the mine, obviously that's open. But yes, a long strike to the east, there's a lot of room for expansion. They did some work at that hilltop zone. This is going back a couple of years where they found some really nice grades of vein material at surface. You can see the silver numbers there. In some cases, absolute bonanza grades. This thing will grow. Okay. I guess the analogy that I've used in the past, I think works pretty well. And many people in the gold space are aware of K92. But K92, they went in when they started working in New Guinea, they went in and they had just small panels or profiles of the vein system there that they developed, and that's very similar to what we see here at Bethania. But As time went on, they started drilling along strike and down below, and look at them now. I mean, it's a multi-million ounce gold system in the case of K92. Well, here, as they drill down deeper along strike, I think this thing could grow dramatically. And like it's not, I would say it's a very easy jump from here to say 50 million ounce silver equivalent resource very quickly with a few drill holes.
Okay. Yeah, and that would be the focus for the companies continue to grow that. Let's quickly move on to Silver Kings. You touched on it, but let's move down to slide 17. I had noted here this new phase 2 drill program. Look, I know that the company right now is focused on moving forward with the development and production at Bethania, but in terms of any potential within this project, this Silver Kings project, where are you most excited?
Let's stick right to this slide here. I think it's
Mhm.
number 16. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The key of the cobalt area is this what's called Nipissing diabase. Okay. It's the orange feature that's kind of snaking across this image. It's an intrusive. It's what we call a sill. It's a flat sheet like body of magma that came up. And above it and below it are your country rocks. There, in this case, Archean and even Paleoproterozoic sedimentary rocks. So you got volcanics, metavolcanics, and then you got sedimentary rocks. And the veins in the cobalt region occur either immediately above or immediately below the Nipissing diabase. Okay, at cobalt itself, I think there was about 300 million ounces of silver produced from veins primarily extending from the Nipissing diabase downwards, so down into the footwall, into the sedimentary rocks adjoining it. Um, yeah, 326 million ounces. It's actually written right there. Duh. Okay, but over here at Curl Lake, the thing that's really super intriguing is that they produce just 26 million ounces, but you have, or sorry, 62 million ounces, but you have the same geologic setting as you do over at Cobalt. In other words, there should be a lot more veins that extend down into the footwall of the Nipissing diabase in the Kerr Lake area. Now, if you drift a little bit lower in the slide deck here, go to the next one. There we go.
There you go.
Okay, so here you can see some of the veins. This is really a really an interesting diagram. I'm going to kind of pick it apart. Okay, the veins actually do project upwards through the diabase itself, and in this image, the brown block that this is kind of a cross-sectional 3D image. The brown block that's at the top there, that is the diabase. Okay, so the veins and the fractures, the fluids that carried the silver actually made their way all the way up to the surface there. Okay, so they can find these things. Yep, they can see veins at surface. They open up a trench. There's a crack there. It's got some interesting minerals in it. Okay, but it's really down at the bottom of the Nipissing diabase where the goodies are. Okay, so if you follow the cracks down through the brown, and then yeah, exactly, you hit that area there. Okay, the contact zone where you're in contact with the rocks below the diabase, that maybe 50 to 100 meter profile is where you find the real goodies. Okay, and the high grade silver, and you can see the arrows, the white boxes where the arrows point to the grades that they've hit in the drilling, you know, phenomenal grades. I mean, we're talking like percent level silver, like what is it, 1.5 or well, 15,372 grams percent silver over 3.34 meters. That's 1.53% silver. Think about that. That's crazy. Okay, that's the kind of grades you see in these types of systems. Now, it is challenging to find those contact zones. Like you have to hold your mouth just right when you're drilling to hit a vein like that. But boy, when you do, you've got something. Okay, this is traditional classic cobalt camp type stuff. And in my view, that lower contact, they found many different veins or many different fractures that come up through the diabase through their trenching. I think they're going to have multiple discoveries down there. Each one of those veins or fractures can host a few million ounces, maybe 10, 15, 20 million ounces, but you're going to have multiple ones. Okay. They show two there, which is great. But I think, go to the next slide. I think they're going to have a lot more than this. Okay. The reason I say that is because this isn't quite the image I was hoping, but that's all right. But
You on this one?
basically, No, no, go back up there. They don't show the one that goes clear back up to the Kerr Lake mine. But basically, there's a lot of runway. Here we go. Maybe it's here. Okay, if you look at it's a bit fuzzy, sorry, but if you look at the Kerr Lake area, you've got a lot of runway. There's a go see there's a claim map. I thought there was a claim map in this deck of no.
I'm not seeing one.
Hmm.
Oh, here we go.
There we
There we
go.
go.
Okay, there we go. Okay. So the Kerr Lake area is you can see it's in that blue. It's where the high density of veins are, the red lines, little pieces of spaghetti there.
Mhm.
Okay, look at how much distance there is from Campbell Crawford all the way back to Kerr Lake. Okay, there's a lot of distance there. There's little red marks every once in a while, but that entire area is underlain by Nipissing diabase. Okay, there's going to be, dozens and dozens of veins. If anything, I think this is one of the more prospective areas to find the next cobalt district. I think, could there be another 200 or 300 million ounces of silver underneath this area where there's diabase, expansive diabase? Absolutely. Okay. And so I think they're in the right neighborhood. I really would like to see the company as silver prices pick up and the excitement around silver explorations, especially a store like this picks up. I would like to see the company attack the exploration here fairly aggressively. They've done a good job so far, but now they got to show that they can find these things repeatedly. It might mean, getting creative. Maybe you have to drill holes that are subparallel to the basal contact and see if you can't lance the veins in some systematic way. I don't know, but there's going to be a lot of silver here. I'm very confident this is one of the best silver targets I know of on planet Earth.
All right. Thanks for walking us through that, Kuya Silver. Kind of that blend here, early stage exploration and also, oh, sorry, early stage production and still a lot of exploration at both of these. I love how they position themselves both on the Lassonde curve down near the bottom there. This is a quick little recap of share structures. The company has just under 100 million shares outstanding, 132 million on a fully diluted basis. Let's move over to core assets then. Traded on the CSE under the symbol CC and on the OTCQB under the symbol CCOOF. As we see here, the company is exploring a CRD porphyry project called the Blue Property in northern BC. I actually love how the company starts off with the share structure slide here because it really is key for investors to understand where the company stands, what the share structure is like. Management team, we will skip over that because I really just want to get into the actual assets here. Do you know much about this Blue Property, Quinton?
I do, and I was up there last July. I know the project quite well. I've known Nick Broadway here for about 3 or 4 years. He came to me in 2020 with this concept of doing grassroots boots on the ground exploration in this area. I recommended he do Blake sampling. He didn't, which funny enough, he started doing, but while he was out Blake sampling, he actually found outcropping mineralization. So he made the discoveries that he's been drilling here recently from that initial program. So we jumped in early. We've been very supportive of Nick and his team for quite some time. I reviewed the project on the ground. It is a big land holding. Okay, this is way up in the northern part. It's really outside of the Golden Triangle. So this is actually a bit north of the Golden Triangle. It's near Atlin, BC. It's mainly helicopter accessible. I mean, you can get a boat across the lake there and probably build a camp at some point. But right now that they're working out of Atlin, out of their camp in Atlin. So look, it's an incredible area that probably hosts a number of porphyry deposits. Okay, like porphyry systems. And these CRD mineral deposits, these carbonate replacement deposits, are closely associated with those porphyry intrusions. You do have at least a couple centers on the property that the company has tackled. So we have Silver Lime, which is kind of where most of the main work has been done to date. But there's and I always mispronounce it, so Nick's going to slaughter me. But anyway, La Verdière, I believe, is how they call the other project. I think I call it Lavadier or something like this. Anyway, it's you can see the name printed there. My French is terrible. So anyway, it's also a porphyry skarn system. Both of these are prospective. I do think the Silverline prospect or project is one of the biggest CRD systems I've seen in a long time. I think there's a slide down below somewhere that shows the scale of this
I had
thing.
slide 10 here noted.
Okay, that gives you a sense of what we're dealing with. Okay, so basically they found CRD mineralization very high grade. Okay, there's very high grades of silver, as well as zinc and lead, but there's also copper in places. There's actually quite high copper here and there, and that gives you a sense that there's probably a direct association with the porphyry in the neighborhood. The porphyry in this area, I believe, is a little bit different age. See down, say down in the Golden Triangle. This is probably a Cretaceous porphyry. Now, what does that mean? You know, if you look at the northwest part of North America, you know, like in a big picture sense, there are different ages of porphyries. You know, there's ones that are a bit older. We'll call it Triassic. These would be like 180, 180 million years or so. Sure, great deposits, you know, Kersulfurettes and things like that down in the Golden Triangle are associated with them. But there's another generation in the Cretaceous that can produce very large scale systems. And we see deposits like Pebble up in Alaska of that age, even Butte, Montana, for example. That's another one. So this reminds me more. Just I'm not sure they have absolute hard data, but the porphyry itself and the textures and it just looks like some of the Cretaceous porphyries I've seen. What does that mean? Well, I think this thing's going to have a very, very strong metal endowment. Okay. And I think the fact we're seeing such high grades over such an expansive area, if you look at that, the scale of that right there, you know, we're talking about several kilometers, like 5 or 6 kilometers across this CRD system. Obviously, probably a big porphyry down at depth driving the thing. Okay, this is a big system. It's not a little one. They have been focused on the CRD, but I think there's a bigger prize there too in the porphyry itself.
Quinton, how do you view CRD projects and deposits? They've definitely got a lot more airtime recently over the last couple of years because, look, they have a lot of different minerals in them. And if you put all those minerals together, you can convert that into high grades, even low operating costs, if you can say that you get these credits for all these other minerals. What's your initial take on CRD deposits?
Well, look, there's a lot of different CRD camps around, and some of them are kind of lowish grade. They tend to be, um, let's say, there's a strong correlation between the grade you see in a CRD and the strength, the overall strength of the system and the resulting outcome of, you know, how much you find tonnage wise. Okay, so if you see high grades, you generally see higher tonnages. It's just a general theme in the CRD world. So I like to pay attention to the ones that are notably high grade. I would say this is definitely in that realm. And that's why I think there's going to be a lot of tons. Okay, now it's not, you know, we don't know the configuration of the CRD system yet. You know, they're drilling it. They found they've had a large number of drill intercepts, but they don't have yet a sense of how everything's connected. Okay, that's going to take a bit of time. But these things can often generate a few tens of millions of tons, maybe 100+ million tons, if you're lucky, of this very high grade zinc lead and often silver with a bit of gold and copper mineralization. Okay, so examples, well, Hermosa down in Arizona, classic CRD system, it's 130 million tons. I think nearly around 9% combined zinc lead and about 3 or 4 ounce silver per ton. That's the kind of prize you can have here, you know, something that's world class. It can generate many millions of tons of base metal as well as maybe a few 100 million tons of silver. So that's the prize.
So with a project like this, that is a big project, lots of different targets, as we can see here. Pete's target, there's the Galley target, Jackie target. these take a lot to drill. So how do you like to see companies go after these sort of potential big prizes, but also balance out budgets, because you can't just be drilling deep holes all over this project?
Well, it is a challenge to drill these things. I mean, you definitely have to spread your dollars very, very carefully. Okay, now I do like Core here. They've done a very good job with their conceptual model. You can see it actually in this slide right here, where you can see the porphyry and you can see the skarn and CRD around it. Okay, so the drilling they've done to date, what has it demonstrated? Demonstrated size. Okay, they found CRD mineralization over something like a radial diameter, or sorry, a diameter around the porphyry system of around 6 kilometers. That's huge. That's enormous. Okay, but yes, you're right. You need to now focus. And I think the best thing the company can do going forward is to develop more concrete targets associated with the porphyry itself. Your best CRD mineralization is going to be effectively like a sheath around that porphyry or CRD skarn mineralization. I think the company is going to have to focus more and more on discrete targets that are going to, potentially hold the tonnage that's needed to develop a mine, something of economic, meaning here. They do have a lot of geophysical data. I don't believe it's in this. There's a couple slides, but I don't think the whole story is here. But I do think that with the data that they have in hand now, they can start doing some more, we'll call it sharpshoot targeting in the next year or two. If they start to see some big intercepts, 10, 20-meter intercepts, kind of like Western Alaska, for example, with these kind of grades, I think you're going to see the market really wake up. As soon as there's an indication they have something with some tons, I think the market's going to wake up, and I'm very confident it's there. One of the things that I do think the company could benefit from would be looking at strategic partners. I think having a strategic partner in this particular case might be a good thing, especially if you want to go hunting whales like the porphyry itself. So that's another thing that I think should be considered in this particular case.
All right. This is, again, that kind of key slide for the capital structure for core assets. Let's move on to the last one that we're going to talk about here, Outcrop Silver. This Santa Ana project in Colombia. One of the keys here is that it does have a resource, about 40 million ounces silver equivalent. This company is traded on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol OC and on the OTCQX under the symbol OCGSF. Let's get into the actual resource. I think I had it right here. Gives a nice little overview. What's your view on this resource here?
Well, it's funny, we were starting with Kuya, but this is where Kuya will likely land in just a couple of years as they drill. This is effectively an exploration story where they're taking a vein system. It's a fairly narrow vein, 1.5, 2 meter veins, and they're drilling it and coming up with resource. Okay, but they have, I think, 7 or 8 different veins here, if I remember right, and they're all quite high grade. But you can only fit so much tonnage on any given vein. All right, so to develop tons in a system like this, you're going to have to drill these things, routine. Like you're going to have to drill up a number of these things. I do like this area, partly because there's other deposits in the region and nearby that demonstrate, a significant vein system like Buritica. Buritica is a little bit different beast, but it's not too far off. And in that case, you do have like a number of sheeted veins, and so we do have an analog we can look at and say, yeah, okay, these guys have, whatever 2.2 million tons right now, okay, but they could easily get to say 10, 15 million tons with a bit of exploration work. I think if you scroll down a wee bit, there's a map that shows the vein system and what they've drilled to date.
This is also quite high grade too. Something
it's very high grade. Yes. This is where you want to be. You want to be in these kind of systems. Here you go. There's your profiles of at least 2 veins there, and very high grades. Okay, note the color scale there. It's like yellow is 500 to 1,000. gram silver equivalent, right? That is uh, a very high grade vein, and it's very continuous over a substantial distance. But you can see here the entire resource. Let's see, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different veins drilled to date. Okay, each one has its own average grade, but all very high grade. A lot of that silver equivalency is made up by gold. Okay, there is a gold component there. I think the gold occurs in an electrum or something like that, if I remember right, which is really interesting. It's kind of, that reminds me a bit of Baritica. But anyway, there is a slide down below somewhere that shows the veins. There we go. There, the red ones are the ones that have been drilled to date, so they're actual resource, but there's a lot more veins here. Okay, and I'm not sure this is going to be a sheeted vein system like Baritica, but just knowing there's neighbors nearby that have a lot of tonnage in vein systems, not too different than this. I think these guys could probably get to that 10 to 15 million ton range by swinging a drill around. You can see the yellow veins; those haven't been tested. Look, they continue on for kilometers to the south. They do have at least some data, either from surface sampling or occasional drill hole in some of those, that says we got high grade, all the way down to the Frias mine. This is a ripe camp that could yield a world-class silver deposit. This reminds me of what was it in Mexico there? I think is the one I'm thinking of in the early days. One of the things I really like about this is that the host rocks here are actually kind of a mix of, if I remember right, they're a mix of volcanic and sedimentary rocks. I really like that aspect. Sometimes when you get into that kind of those juicy sedimentary rocks, they can really be productive metal wise. They can really generate a lot of metal quickly. So, these guys, I'd say they're one of the best silver vein stories I know of out there. They're doing a good job in exploration, and they have a lot of upside.
So when it comes to exploration, look, even that one slide, they had said it a couple times here, where the 7 of more than 22 sampled veins. We see the different sampled veins here in orange. How do you like to see companies attack those? Because they already have a resource, but if they keep drilling out veins that carry the same grade or similar grade, that can be big steps for the company.
That's a great debate in mining. Look, one of the things I've talked about many times is, we in the mining world need to really focus on building mines. Like that's our main business, right? It's not just about exploring ad nauseum. You got to go out and you got to build a mine and get the cash flow. We talked about Kuya just a bit ago. That's their strategy. They're going to build, Bethania into a producer or resume, production there, and they're going to do it through toll milling. I'm not sure what the availability of, say a toll mill is available in this area, but I would encourage a company like this that already has a very, very strong resource base, not huge, but decent size resource base, to go ahead and look at the quickest path it can to get to production and get in the cash flow. I think one of the great failings we have in the mining space is to just drill ad nauseum and not make that leap. Exploration is great. It can deliver value. In a good market, it can be rewarded. But boy, there's nothing like getting paid, every month for your concentrates that are being put on a ship, to go off to China or something. So I think these guys should make a beeline to production. There we go. There's some of the photographs. This is really interesting mineralization. If you look at the electrum over there, it's electrum's a natural silver gold alloy, and in this case, it's roughly 30% gold. So that hence the color is kind of whitish. It's not bright yellow like gold would be. But that's not all that different than what we see over at Baritica. And the rock there, the host rock is kind of a blackish rock. I believe that's sedimentary stuff. To me, this looks like it's, in a way, it's almost like a silver version of a newfound. That's one of the ways to think about it. It's not an orogenic system. It is an intermediate sulfidation system, but it it's going to have a large complex main system that's deep rooted. Okay, and it's going to be silver rich. Okay, so these things they're very juicy targets. I like them a lot. I think these guys are on one. Let's see if they can get into production and then keep drilling this thing. This thing should go for the next 50 to 100 years. Easy.
So Quinton, I'll slide through the rest of these slides, but overall, what about Colombia as a jurisdiction for resource companies to operate in?
Yeah, look, if you're a big gold company, you're not going to just run into Colombia. Anglo Gold Ashanti, they've been trying to push Colossus for years now, and they haven't gotten anywhere. Newmont had a stake in what was it? I can't remember the Buritica owner. Was it Continental, I believe?
Continental, yes, that was
Yeah,
Continental.
they had a step aside when there was some violence there. Newmont got spooked by the violence. The Chinese ended up buying Buritica, which it's fine. I mean, it's good. They're doing a good job there. I think they're producing 200,000 or 300,000 ounces a year at this point. But you really gonna have to be prepared to operate in Colombia. It's gonna take a lot of community relations. It's best to do it as utilizing the smaller scale miners in the areas. They know how to mine these things already. If the company can kind of bootstrap things using local workforce like that, that's already savvy in this style of mining, they should be able to make it work.
Okay. Well, Quinton, thank you very much for your time. Very interesting. I hope everybody enjoyed this slide flip that we did as well. Please let me know your thoughts on this style of stock talk with Quinton, as well as still more companies that you are interested in. I have this ongoing list that stands right now at 19 companies. So Quinton and I still have a lot of work ahead of us, but we do appreciate just the response we've gotten so far. Thank you, everyone, for watching, listening, and sharing the companies you want us to talk about. Quinton, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for doing this with us.
Thank you, Corey.